This webinar is being done by Safety Pro. It's an international, Safety International Systems and Services Limited. It's a company. Now, what do they do? These are some of the services they do. They render to the public: project safety coordination and management, quality and HSE management systems, the fire safety management, and facility management. They also conduct tests, inspect PPE, inspect safety equipment and the lifting equipment. Okay, they're also into sales and of personal protective equipment. Okay, if you want to contact them, you can contact them via their email addresses. Also, you can follow them up on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or you go to www.safetyproissl.com. Okay, we are ready for the presentation, and I'm going to hand you over to the presenter. She's already here. She's also a specialist on safety and health. Please, Brandy, over to you.
All right, so can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so you can go ahead and mute yourself because I'm getting some feedback from you. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, my name is Brandy Bossle. I work at AVX Corporation in the United States. I actually just got my title changed. I'm the Corporate Environmental Safety and Security Manager now. But today we're going to be talking about accident investigation and reporting. So some learning objectives. We're going to define why we investigate accidents, describe who should investigate accidents, explain when to investigate, describe what should be investigated, and then describe how to conduct an accident investigation. Okay, so some terms to understand first before we get into it. First, an accident is any unplanned event that interrupts the completion of activity, typically resulting in human injury or property damage. And then there's near miss. And a near miss is any unplanned event that did not cause injury or property damage, but it had the potential to. So as you can see in the picture to the right, it kind of shows you the different terms. So the picture on the left is an unsafe condition. You see there is a suspended load there, and there is some rusty lifting gear. So that's an unsafe condition. And in the next picture, you have an unsafe act, which there is a suspended load, and there's people walking underneath that suspended load. So that would be an unsafe act. And then you have your near miss. So that that suspended load did end up falling due to that rusty lifting gear, and it landed right next to the employees. So it didn't actually hurt them, but it had the potential to. And then the last picture, that is a picture of an accident. So the employees were walking under the suspended load, the rusty lifting gear broke, and the box or the suspended load fell on the employees, causing an accident. So these are the terms you need to understand. Okay. So why do we investigate accidents? So the major reasons, and this is the main reason, is to determine the cause to prevent future accidents. So we don't want these accidents to occur again. So we want to do everything in our power to try to make sure it doesn't cause any more harm or property damage. Accidents and illnesses cause a decrease in employee morale. So if an accident occurs, people, they're not as excited to be at work or happy to be at work. Regulations require employers to provide a safe and healthy work environment free of recognized hazards. And then preventing accidents lowers workers' compensation insurance premiums, thereby increasing profits. So if we're paying less due to, less injuries, then the company is going to make more money. All right, accident reports. All right, so when an accident occurs, you have to do the accident report. So you're going to want to talk about who got injured, what happened, where the employee got hurt, when the employee got hurt, so date and time, why the employee got hurt, and how. So you want to determine the root cause of the accident, which would be the why. And this requires special skills by a professional through training or experience. So if someone inexperienced tries to figure out the cause of the accident, they may not get to the root of the problem. And if you don't get to the root cause of the accident, then you don't really, there's no real reason there's no real way to prevent that from happening in the future. So you want to try to find the root cause of the problem, which needs to be done by someone who has experience and knowledge. Okay, who should investigate accidents? So the safety and health professional should always be involved in the accident investigation by playing a leadership role in collecting and analyzing the facts to develop recommendations. So basically, the safety and health professional should always have a role, but if the injury is very minor, the supervisor of the injured worker can conduct the investigation, but the safety and health professional should still study the accident report and be consulted regarding those recommendations for corrective action. Should conduct the investigation with help from others, such as the supervisor and employees with knowledge of the work in question. So you might want to have like an investigation team get together and talk about what happened if the injury is serious. So have more people than just the safety person do it. So get the supervisors involved, the managers involved, and the employees involved. Okay, when to investigate an accident. So you want to begin the accident investigation as soon as the employee is cared for. So immediate investigations produce more accurate information, right? Because when you talk to witnesses, they're going to remember more information. And the longer you wait, important facts may be forgotten as memories fade. So an immediate investigation is evidence of management's commitment to preventing future accidents. So when you go out there and you try to figure out what happened due to an accident, it shows that you guys care, that management cares, and wants to make sure it doesn't happen again. Okay, what to investigate? So the purpose of incident investigation is to collect the facts. It's not to find fault. So you don't want to label others or place blame on the person who got hurt. You never want to do that. And the causes of the accident should be the primary focus. So your investigation should be guided by who got hurt, what happened, where, when, why, and how. So if a worker made a mistake or breached a procedure, it's going to be recorded as fact and not a fault. So again, do not blame the employee who got injured. So below are some examples of questions that should be asked. So these are just some examples. Of course, there's a ton more. I just kind of threw in some of the main ones. So what type of work was the injured person doing? What was the person trying to do at the time of the accident? Was the injured person trained in the task? Was the injured person authorized to use the equipment? Are there any established safety rules or procedures that were not followed? And was the injured person new to the job? So were they a new employee? Did they get training? So there's a lot of other questions to be asked, and we'll get into more questions too when we talk about witnesses. An accident investigation. So the first thing you want to do is isolate the accident scene. The next thing you want to do is record all evidence, photograph the scene, identify the witnesses and interview the witnesses, and then follow up with the accident investigation. So first thing we're going to talk about is isolating the accident scene. So first, you want to bring the situation under control and care for the injured worker. So that's the first thing you do, is make sure that injured worker is properly cared for. The next step is you want to secure the area and isolate the accident scene. So you want to make sure it's safe for the investigators to do their job. So when the investigators go in there, you or other people You want to make sure that it is safe for you to be in there and there's still not an unsafe condition in that area. And then you want to collect information and facts before the accident scene is changed. So the purpose of isolating the scene is to maintain as closely as possible the conditions that existed at the time of the accident. So you don't want anyone to change anything before you go in there and start investigating. You don't want people to put back safety guards or anything. You want to have it the way it was when the person got hurt. All right, the next step is to record all evidence. So you want to make a permanent record of evidence as quickly as possible. So the reasons for this is the longer the accident scene is isolated, the more likely it is that evidence will be disturbed. And if the isolated scene contains a critical piece of equipment, there's going to be pressure to get it back in the operation. So if an employee got hurt on a piece of machinery, obviously we're going to care for the injured worker, but that management, the plant manager, they're going to want to get that piece of equipment back into production, right? So ways to record evidence: written notes, sketches, diagrams, photos, videos. So what I normally do is I take a lot of written notes and a lot of pictures. You always want to take a lot of pictures, close-ups from far back. You want to just take as many pictures as possible. So if in doubt, record it. So if you're unsure if you should take a picture of something or write down notes about something, always record it because you never know if you're going to need it. All right, next is photograph the scene. So, so this step is an extension of the previous step. You want to photograph or videotape. So cell phones are an easy way to take pictures and record the evidence. So photographs sometimes do not reveal the proper perspective. So if you are going to be taking pictures, which I would definitely recommend take pictures, you want to place a familiar object in the picture, such as a ruler, coin, or even the photographer's finger. The added object will help viewers gain the right perspective on the subject of the picture. So if you're taking a picture of like a piece of machinery, maybe have a person stand next to it so people can see how big the machinery is. If you're taking a picture of a guard or something, maybe have a coin or a ruler in the picture so people know how big the object actually is. All right, and then next up, you want to identify witnesses and interview witnesses. So first, you want to compile a witness list. And then after you compile that list, you want to interview every witness individually and separately from other witnesses. If you have individuals being witnesses together and you're asking them questions, they may compare notes and they may change their story. So you really want to talk to the witnesses separately. And then you may need to re-interview the witnesses for clarification. So say you talk to 3 different witnesses and third witness brought up something that wasn't brought up before. You may want to ask witness 1 and witness 2 for more clarification. Interview immediately after the witness list has been made. So again, make the witness list and interview people immediately, individually, and then do it right away because memory is best right after the accident. Okay, some interview techniques. So the key to receiving the facts is to listen. So only interrupt if necessary to get clarification about what the witness is saying. Try not to influence the witnesses with any gestures, facial expressions, or tone of voice. Like if they say something to you, don't be like, ooh, don't say anything like that. Just try to remain neutral and then just try to remain non-judgmental when talking to witnesses. So you want to ask open-ended questions. So instead of, did you see the victim fall, which the witnesses would either say yes or no to that, you want to ask instead, tell me what you saw. So then they would have to, go into more detail about what happened instead of just a yes/no question. So you want to ask the witnesses who, what, where, when, why, how. So just the basics, but also be more specific if you know exactly what's going on. So you might want to organize your questions. There's 5 different components you may want to organize by. There's task-related questions, material-related questions, environmental-related, personnel-related, and then management-related. So you might want to start asking the witnesses, were proper safe work procedures followed? Were normal procedures unsafe? Were the appropriate tools available? So those are specifically task-related. The next is material related. So was there an equipment failure? If so, what caused it? Was the machinery poorly designed? What PPE was used? Personal protective equipment? Environmental related questions. So were toxic dust or gases present? Was there sufficient lighting? How was housekeeping in the area, right? Like was there stuff all over the floor? Or was it neat and clean? Was noise a factor? Was it really noisy in there? So those are environmental related. Personnel related, so were workers properly trained on the task? Were the workers experienced? And were the workers fatigued? So those are all personnel. And then management related, so is there a safety policy in place? Were those safety procedures communicated? And were those safety procedures enforced? So you can, this is just a way for you to organize your questions to the witnesses by the 5 components. Okay, so continuing on with the checklist, the last step is to follow up with accident investigation. So you want to follow up quickly after the investigation has been complete. So after you talk to all those witnesses and got all your facts and findings. So to follow up, you want to write the accident report and find the root cause. You want to develop a plan for, You want to develop a plan for corrective action. You want to implement the corrective action plan. After you implement those corrective actions, you want to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness. So are they working? If they're not working, then you need to adjust as necessary to ensure the cause of the accident has been eliminated. And then last, you want to incorporate changes into standard operating procedures for continual improvement of the workplace. All right, so let's talk about root cause for a second. A root cause is an initiating cause of either a condition or a causal chain that leads to an outcome. So it denotes the earliest, most basic, deepest cause for good behavior. So when a problem occurs, you kind of see the symptoms of the problem. But what you want to do is you want to dig deeper to find the actual root cause of the problem. And how you can do that, an easy way, is the 5 why method. So I'm going to teach you how to do the 5 why method. So the problem is that you ran through a red light. So why? So all you do is you keep asking why to the problem and then just keep going. So the problem is you ran through the red light. Why? Because you were late for work. Well, why were you late for work? Because I woke up late. Well, why did you wake up late? Because the alarm clock broke. Well, why did the alarm clock break? Because I didn't check if it worked. Well, why didn't you check if it worked? I forgot to do it last night. So the root cause would be that you forgot to do it last night. So when you find the root cause, you got to put corrective actions in place and measures in place. So a measure that you might take for this to not run through a red light again would be to make a nightly checklist where you check to make sure your alarm clock is working. Okay, so that's a measure you could take to prevent the problem of running through a red light. All right, another example. So a problem is the machine stopped working. So that's your problem. So again, you just keep asking why. So why has the machine stopped? The overload tripped out. Well, why did the overload trip out? Because there was insufficient oil on the shaft. Well, why was there insufficient oil on the shaft? Because the oil pump is inefficient. Well, why is the pump not efficient? Because the pump draft shaft is worn. Well, why is the shaft worn? The oil filter is blocked with swarf. So that would be the root cause, that the oil filter is blocked with swarf. So again, you found the root cause, so we got to put a measure in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. So a measure you could do for this is implement a monthly inspection checklist where you clean the oil filter, right? So if we clean that oil filter, we clean or we make sure the root cause is solved, then this problem won't happen again. Okay, so when there is a problem, there may be multiple root causes, there may be multiple problems. So there may be problems with the material. So was it the wrong material for the job? Was there not enough material, or was the material defective? Or maybe the root cause has something to do with the environment. So was there a dangerous working condition, or just a dangerous condition around the machine? Like how was the housekeeping? Was there insufficient lighting? You know, was it too dim? Was it really loud in there? Maybe the method was wrong. So was there a dangerous working method? Was there no working procedure at all? Or maybe the hazard just wasn't recognized. Machine or equipment. So maybe the root cause has something to do with the machine. So maybe there was no safety device. Maybe the safety device was not working, or the proper equipment was not available. Maybe the root cause had something to do with the worker. Maybe the worker operated the machine improperly. Maybe the worker did not use PPE. And last, maybe the root cause had something to do with the management, in the area, so the supervisor. So was there inadequate training, or was there failure of a supervisor to detect or fix that, right? So these are all different types of root causes that are from problems, okay? So there can be multiple for each problem. Okay, so when you establish corrective actions, you want to establish who will be completing the corrective action. So if you don't give a name, then no one's going to do it, okay? So you have to put someone in that, or you have to have someone who's actually going to be doing it, right? The most appropriate person. So establish who will be completing the corrective action. Then you want to establish when you want the corrective action to be completed. So do you want it done in 2 weeks? Do you want it done within a month? And my company, we try to shoot for a month for it to be completed. So then you want to follow up to make sure the corrective action has been completed and is working. So that means you want to monitor and evaluate the corrective action. So is the corrective action working, right? So what I do is I keep a log of all safety corrective actions with some examples of the columns at the top. So this is just something I made up, but maybe the safety issue is that there's a wet floor coming into the building from rain. An employee slipped on the wet floor. So I have the area is the front entrance of the building. Who is responsible? So maybe the facility guy could be responsible, the facility manager, because what I want, how to correct the safety issue, is to add carpet to the entrance. So the most appropriate person would be the facility manager. So maybe his name is Joe Exotic. So that he would be the person who's responsible for adding carpet to the entrance, because that's our fix to this problem. You want to put the date that was opened and then the date closed. So when was that carpet added, right? So maybe it was done 20 days later. What was corrected? So you want to write what exactly you corrected. You don't just want to put, yes, it was corrected. You want to put exactly what was corrected. So in this case, carpet was added to the front entrance. And then 2 other ones I like to add in here for trends is the type of issue and then how it was found. So in this particular safety issue is about slip, trip, falls. That's like the type of safety issue, right? So I just write it down, and then how is it found, accident report. Or maybe it was found by an employee reporting it, So you just want to, these are just 2 extras at the end that I use for trends. So going into trends, I like to keep trends on my accidents. So some examples are, what are the most common types of accidents? What areas or departments are seeing the most accidents? And then how many days is it taking to close out the corrective actions of the accidents? So really, I keep trends and I use the data to focus on where to improve. So for example, this is just made up, but it has some types of accidents, some slip, trip, falls, or ergonomics, cut by, pinch points. So those are the types of accidents, right? So in this particular table, I'm showing 7 slip, trip, falls, 7 slip, trip, fall accidents, 2 ergonomic accidents, 3 cut by something accidents, and 1 pinch point accident. So using this data, I can look at, okay, slip, trip, falls are my main cause of people getting hurt on site. So maybe I need to do more with this. Maybe I need to implement training. Maybe when we renovate the floors, they need to be more abrasive so people's shoes can stick better. Maybe we need to update our shoe policy. Maybe everyone should be wearing rubber shoes. So or rubber sole shoes. So yeah, so you kind of just want to use trends that you find from your accidents and use it and look at where you can improve your site. Okay, so reporting accidents. Here in the United States, if a death occurs, you have to report to OSHA. OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration here in the United States. So you have to report death to them in 8 hours. You have to report within 24 hours, loss of an eye, hospitalization, and an amputation. So how to report in the United States, you can just call the local OSHA office or you can just report online. So in summary, the main reason to investigate accidents is to find the causes to prevent future accidents, right? I mean, that is the purpose. We don't want it to happen again, so we want to do everything in our power to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. You want to dig deep and find that root cause. When we find that root cause, we can solve that problem and put measures in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. You want to begin the accident investigation as soon as the injured employee is cared for. After the accident occurs, you want to isolate the scene, record the evidence, interview the witnesses, and then follow up with the accident investigation report. And then when establishing corrective actions, you want to be specific about who is responsible, when it is due, and always follow up. So is that corrective action working? All right, the references I used was a book called The Basics of Occupational Safety. This is just a book I like to use for reference. It has some good stuff in it. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I've seen one question on the chat. Okay, before we open up for people to ask questions, let me take that question, please. The question is, what's the difference between incident and accident investigation? What's the difference between incident investigation and accident investigation?
So some people use the word interchangeably, but some people just use the word incident as pretty much anything. So it could be like a near miss or it could be an accident. But with an accident, it's just some, either property damage or someone actually getting hurt. So again, an incident could be an accident is actually property damage or someone getting injured, but a lot of people use them interchangeably, and I don't really think it matters too much.